I can see you are seated very well for COVID, but you're not wearing masks. You know, when they said there was COVID, they told those people who are 58 and above to be very careful, isn't it? And I told them, even if you had 10 years, I would still be older than that. So I'm still wearing my mask. Our discussion is on contentment. I have written a book on it, and so I will share a few of the ideas. But if you are really interested in the subject, I will encourage you to pick the book, Secret Contentment, from Scripture Union Bookshop, and it will help you. But especially contentment becomes difficult in the following three areas. Number one, contentment becomes difficult when you don't have adequacy. In other words, either money or food or children or something, whatever it is you wanted, is there but not adequate, not enough. And yet the word of God is still telling you to be contented. And that's really a challenge. Number two, contentment becomes very difficult when you compare yourself with others. That although you have adequacy, you wonder, God, why don't I have like so and so? You know, sometimes and I've had some young ladies talk about it, that I save myself for the kingdom of God. Look at the girls wasted themselves having such a wonderful marriages, and I don't. And the idea is, because I married as a virgin, my marriage will be better than those who wasted themselves as single girls. Now, you look at them, the Lord has blessed them with 2 boys and 2 girls and a fantastic husband. What went wrong? It's not really that marriage is bad. It's only it's being compared by somebody, which you expected God to punish that girl for the way she wasted herself when you are in the university. And look at the way she is. God, I should not be at her level. You get the point? Yes. So you are not contented, not because your marriage is bad, but because it's not better than so and so. You know, I keep saying all of us want to serve the Lord, but the vacancy we always look for in the service of God is to be God's advisor. And unfortunately, there is no vacancy. We want to be God's advisor. Unfortunately, there is no vacancy. Because you are telling God, you can't treat her like that. Not with our history. You know, I got saved in 1960s. I got saved in 1960s, and all of us, when you got saved, you joined the Tukutan Fellowship. It was the main fellowship in the 60s. And in Tukutan, when you give testimony, you have to talk about the things you have done, how you are taken out of them, and how you are walking with the Lord. Now, so in fact, sometimes you give a testimony and they say, hey, endelea, because you haven't really talked about the things you have actually done. And I got saved young, so I have to talk about how I stole my mother's sugar. But you must say something. You must say something about what exactly you used to do. But then there are some people that were so bad that they get saved. And you know, once they repent, they are supposed to be accepted in the fellowship. Then the other brethren say, surely, no, wait a minute, before they can accept the person. God has already forgiven you, but the brethren cannot. You go through all kinds of things and you come and say sorry. One of the big sins those days was your daughter getting circumcised. In the 60s, it was a big thing in Mount Kenya area. So what used to happen is that because the societal pressure was so huge about your daughter getting circumcised, because if the daughter is not circumcised, she will never get a husband. So people would strategically backslide around December. Then their daughter will get circumcised. Then in January, they will come to church to repent. And when they are repenting, the fellowship say, no, we don't accept. Now I say, wait a minute. Does God say he cannot accept you, or have you become better than God? But that was the fellowship then. But all the question of, some people are so bad, you feel they are not forgivable. But the blood of Jesus is adequate, isn't it? But the fact that God is not treating them the way you want them treated makes you not feel contented. Are we together? Thirdly, you lack contentment, or you don't have a spirit of contentment simply because you have lost control, and I'll be coming back to it. You feel like to be contented means everything is as per your requirements. It is, you are now in charge. Then when you feel everything is under your control, at that time you feel, I am now contented. Have you seen on TV, they even are having these days, you wake up in the morning, you find it's written, order your morning. Have you read it? Yes. And you know they are quoting the book of Job, where God is asking, after all the quarrels between Job and his friends, God finally talks. And he says, are you able to order your morning? What's the answer? What do you think God expected Job to say? No. Yet, people have taken that one and made it that you can actually order your morning. And some of you have quoted it. But go back and check there. The answer to the question is no, you can't. So a lot of us are lacking contentment because we are unable to order our morning. What is to order your morning? It's that you can control what happens in the day. In fact, I still remember before I retired many years ago. I'm 70 this year, so you can calculate when I was 55. And somebody came to our lunch our fellowship, and they told us that they can never have an accident. Why? They said, wait a minute, as soon I'm coming from Thika, of course we are in Nairobi, as soon I'm coming from Thika, and I enter into the vehicle, because Jesus is in me, he also enters into the vehicle. Is there any likelihood a vehicle like Jesus is can roll? The only answer you expect is no. So a Christian can never have an accident. Now I was not in the fellowship that day, so I was told about it. The following day I said, let's not go to another topic. I might preach that somewhere. Because that is not in the scriptures. Are we together? If it was true, God would have to apologize to Job. Yes. Because Job was so righteous that not just his own sins, the sins of his children, he would sacrifice. Just in the case, not that they have done anything wrong, just in the case. That's the level of righteousness he had. Yet everything that could go wrong actually went wrong. Because only God can order our morning. But I'm telling you, that is a bad problem. A lot of us are unable to have contentment and joy because we feel we are not in control of our lives. If there was never any promise, you'll never be in control. Are we together? That's really what our discussion is this morning. And my prayer is that as we talk about it, that God will challenge you and me about the times when we are not having contentment. Let me quickly define what contentment is. Contentment is a sense of and a realization that everything is okay irrespective of where you are or what is happening. In other words, the situation may be bad, but you have something telling you it is still under control. And so you are seated at peace. And that's why the Bible calls it peace beyond understanding. That's what we call contentment. When you have that kind of spirit where you sense God is in control of your life, and that whatever he allows into your life is deliberately allowed for a specific reason, you'll be at peace irrespective of where you are. You may be in a hospital bed, they have just told you about terminal sickness, but you are at peace. Why? Because you know even that one has not come to God by surprise. In my vernacular we say Gaida Igoti. In other words, God has no oblongata. You know that there's a place where even in a mirror you cannot see yourself. You have to ask your wife to check. Like my hair is disappearing from the back, so my wife has to tell me exactly how it is disappearing. But God has no oblongata. Are you getting the point? Nothing comes to God by surprise. So the spirit of contentment is the realization that I'm a child of God, and that there is nothing coming to God by surprise, and that nothing comes to me except having passed through the hands of God. He tells me, I'm the apple of his eye. And I can tell you something, nobody can ever touch your apple without you realizing. Oh, by the way, Brother Nana, yesterday I touched you at the apple of your eye. You didn't realize. No, that can't happen. Other places you might touch, or you can disappear that piece of my hair without me knowing. But the eye is so sensitive. When God says that we are the apple of his eye, it means nothing can happen to us without his realization. However, it doesn't mean the things that will happen to you are always good. Some very bad ones will happen, but they are all calculated to achieve God's purpose in your life. So the spirit of contentment is a spirit that even this one, I don't understand it, but I know my master has allowed it for a reason. And so you live at peace to wait at what. And you know, sometimes you know I'm in a situation, and I can't see how it will be sorted out. All of a sudden I start sympathizing with God. Exactly how you I know you sort it out, but how will you do it? You know, I feel like giving him foreign aid, but I can't see how. And you start saying, God, this one, how will you sort it? But I know he will. I'm not in doubt that he will. And that's what gives me peace and the spirit of contentment. That's what you're talking about. That's why when you understand that contentment, it means that you can be at peace and joyful all the days of your life. And I quickly add, it doesn't mean that all things will be going well. No, we are quoting Romans chapter 8 verse 28. It's really quoted. Would you agree with me? And we misquote it. How do we read it? We say, all things work good to those who love the Lord. That's not what the Bible says. Just check it up. Does it say that? No. You are leaving a word that changes the whole subject. Things work not good, but for good. That word for destroys the whole thing. Because the moment he says the word for good, it means they don't have to be good. They are working for good. He has not promised that all things that come to his children will be good. But he is saying they are going to work for good. And I have many subjects of many bad things that have happened to me. And then I discover their reason. I can give you several. But one of them is, I joined Shell in 1979. I used to work for a development bank. Then in 1979 they poached me because I didn't apply. Somebody from Shell came looking for me. And when I joined them, I was already an executive and I started rising. But somewhere in the 80s, they decided to start something that was called decentralized type of management, where they would have a manager in each region, and he became a manager, like a general manager of that region. And that meant, whereas I had assumed I was too senior to work in the field, I was now asked to be the one to be the manager for the Kisumu region. And I thought, this is the devil somewhere. Because by that time, I was in the Council of Focus, I was the chairman, the national chairman of KSF, I was a leader in the Business Development Fellowship, I was a leader in the Gideons, and it's all in Nairobi. So the devil might be calculating to destroy God's work. So I actually protested. Right now I went up to the CEO, and they told me, where you are going to management. You have never worked in the field. It will interfere with the possibility of promotion at the top when you have not had any field experience. I said, but did you ever tell me when I refused? How can you hold me responsible for something I was not in control of? I argued. But after talking to the CEO Mzungu, I realized they are serious. So I told them, okay, if I can't, if I must go to the field, send me to Nakuru, where I can, at least I can leave my family in Nairobi and be commuting. Say, no, we trust you. You can go, you should go to a place where nobody can help you. You are on your own. That's why I sent you to Kisumu. So that you are totally, and you will be able to manage. So I realized I've only two alternatives. Either resign or go to Kisumu. The reason why it was difficult to go is because my wife used to teach A-level economics. And at that time, they just decided they were starting 844. Which meant that she was teaching among the final groups. Within that time, there will be no A-level. And she found it difficult to go back to from 1 to 4 because she really used to enjoy, A-level were like university students. And so she therefore decided to go and do a master's so that she can follow them into the university. When we are following them, as if you do a master's, now you can teach them in the university. So she resigned and went to do her master's. And of course those days there are no universities outside Nairobi. So if I go to Kisumu, will I be asking her to stop her master's? It will be asking too much. That's why I'm fighting. If they ask, let's go to Nakuru. So for a while I didn't even tell her. I'm praying on my own, but I'm not telling my wife. Because I know this is certainly what is called disorganization. I am not contented with what God is. In fact, I'm not saying God, the devil is doing. Anyway, finally I realized I have no alternative. So I told her what I had been told. She said, is that so? It can only mean one thing, that the Lord does not want me to go on with her masters. I didn't want to comment because I would not want my wife to sacrifice her masters for the sake of the marriage. So it's clear. You can't go and become a wicked husband. I don't mean wicked, a weekend, but wicked and wicked are very close. So it can only mean I'll have to drop my masters so that we move together to Kisumu. So finally that's what happened. We all landed in Kisumu. I want to tell you 3 things that were causing God to take me to Kisumu. Number 1, I was the chairman of KSF, but we were having a lot of difficulties with high school ministry in Kisii. Kisii was then Nyamira and Kisii were one county. They had, even 1980s, they had over 300 schools. But the team that was supposed to be preaching in high school had become a church. So high school ministry was gone. So I kept giving orders from headquarters how we must reorganize. God sent me to Kisumu to be close enough to do it. Now it's not to order others for me to do it. And within no time that I arrived in Kisumu, I was now looking for who is on the ground in Kisii County. And I drove to Kisii. I was covering the region, supplies of petroleum products, both Western Kenya and Nyanza province, the 2 provinces. So Kisii was within my area. So I drove there for work, looked for people, and we relaunched the team in Kisii. It has never closed again. Amen. I understood why I had to go and stay in Kisumu. The KSF team in Kisumu, called COM, they used to be called Kisumu Outreach Ministry, had just decided to be a ministry. The idea of doing leadership training for students, they say that's what they are called for. So I attended the first meeting, the ones that are there, and I realized they are not interested in the idea of helping students with the CU leadership. I just told them, since you are a ministry for preachers, can you now start a KSF team? And during the AGM, I moved a motion that all those who want a KSF team, who are interested in going to schools and helping and mentoring them, hands up. Those who want to ministry and would leave, even if only two, let the two remain. Now, once they realized I was serious, everybody voted to make it a KSF team. And that's how we started a proper KSF team in Kisumu. And I can go on. So within no time we knew. It was not the devil sending me to Kisumu. It was God. He knew what was to happen. Remember, in 1986, I was invited by Moi University, which was a new university then in 1986, to preach. I actually drove, because they wanted me by 9 a.m. I drove on Saturday from Nairobi and slept in Nakuru to be there by 9 a.m. in cases in Moi University, only to discover I was preaching to 12 people. Professor Kiapi was the chairman of the CU with the 12 others. That's how I drove all that distance to 12 people. But now they knew me, they were inviting me regularly. But that meant I was driving from, now in Kisumu, it was just a matter of 1 hour. Now I knew why I was in Kisumu, was to be regular in Kisumu. In fact, I've never ministered to a campus the way I ministered in Moi University. Of course, they didn't know a lot of speakers, so it was continuous. On a Friday, I would finish work at 5 and drive to Moi. And up to now, a lot of my friends were from that generation of the late 1980s in Kisumu. My wife, who now had for a while, she was only a housewife, now in Kisumu. In fact, within no time, I had to expand my clothes, because the only job she was doing was cooking. But that opened her eyes. Within no time, she started a ministry to primary schools, because she realized her children were going to Aga Khan Primary School, and there was no ministry because the Muslims were doing their thing, the Aga Khan. So she started asking teachers, can you start something for our children? Say, hey, this is an Asian school, they can't allow it. My wife just drove and went to the headmistress, said she would like to do some ministry for the non-Muslims. You know what the Asian teacher said? I've always wondered what's wrong with you people. We look after ours. How come you people don't look after yours? Go and start it. Now, the teachers were refusing to even ask. Now she is being blamed for coming too late. And so she started a Bible club in Aga Khan. Within no time, all the major schools of Kisumu, she had a ramshackle of a small car. It did many kilometers in Kisumu. Then she came to Nairobi, she became the agent of Scripture Union materials in that area. She came Bible Society of Kenya. She became there. She was a very, very busy lady. And then one day, the chairman of the Headmaster Association was the headmaster of Kisumu Boys, and the secretary was the headmaster of our previous school in Nairobi. They were there, and they had learned that he is there, and the previous headmaster said, if you want a good economics teacher, there is a lady who has come to Kisumu called Mrs. Nganga. He said, are you serious? Oh, yeah, because her students used to get A's in economics. They would have A in economics and nothing else. But so the headmaster was not in any doubt that would help. So the headmaster says, if that's the thing, I will even start a special class just for her. So within no time, she didn't continue cooking for long. She started an A-level economics class in Kisumu Boys. She was a very busy lady. And within no time, she started Women's Aglo, because there was no international women's meeting. And then she started Pastors Fellowship, where she would organize lunches in her house, with a company house in Milimani in Kisumu, and call the pastors together. She was such a busy lady, I could not even compare. Now, all I'm saying is, My lack of a contentment when the idea was brought was just a sign of foolishness. Not knowing the mind of God. I'm giving you that testimony so that you look at yours. What are you currently going through that is causing you such discontentment just because you don't have adequate information? Because all the information is with God, and you have no idea exactly what you are going through, what it will turn out to be. One more testimony. After many years, I retired, and I started a consultancy company called Taruma Consultants. And that's when, in writing my CV, because in Kisumu, I was doing everything. I was in marketing, I was in retail, I was in commercial, I was in finance, I was in everything. So they all are in my CV. It turned out that's what has really expanded my consultancy firm because of the exposure in Kisumu. Now in the years of retirement. They want somebody to train in retail. Oh, the people look at my CV and say, come and train our people in retail marketing. They want somebody in aviation, come and train our people in aviation. Come. All because I went for 3 years to a place I did not want to go. Now, I feel, that's why I told you feel foolish. How could I be refused? How could I have been refusing something that had so many benefits? But of course I didn't know, did I? No. So our subject is contentment. That a lot of the reasons why we are not contenting is because we want total control, yet we don't have enough information to actually carry that task that we actually want. Let me give you a few prerequisites for if you are really going to live a life of contentment. Number one, avoid the dictatorship of the agent. Avoid the dictatorship of the agent. You feel like this must happen now. God, not tomorrow, now. Why don't you just stand back and say, God, how come you are not allowing this to happen? Might there be a reason why you don't want it to happen? The detective, if you have read my book on a leader source of influence, I argue that you must always have a to-do list that is listed in terms of priority. For every task, ask, is it important? Then ask, is it urgent? Tick all of them. Then reorganize them such that the ones that are both important and urgent are the first to be done. You will discover some things are very urgent, but they are not important. They will end up at the last. Many things that are almost forcing you to do something are not even worth your time. I like giving the example of your car. You wake up in the morning and you find your car is leaking. The exhaust. It will make such a noise in the estate, everyone will know Nana's car has a problem. Do you know, chances are that day you repair that exhaust, isn't it? But do you know, an exhaust leaking is not a big issue. You can even drive the next 1 year. It will not cause you an accident. It's not a big issue at all. At all, the Samari cars makes with a noise and they clap. But you wake up in the morning and discover your car brakes have a problem, but nobody else can know. So you are braking with the leg and with the hand, and that's the way you are driving the car. That is not only important but also urgent. But what do you normally do? Since nobody knows about that you are braking with the hand and the foot, you continue doing it for 1 week, and yet the exhaust you do it same day. That's not a sign of being clever. Would you agree with me? So I don't know what in life is causing you lack of contentment, because you are allowing the dictative of the agent. And you need to start seeing things from a new perspective, so that even as you deal with the issues that are there, always ask, is this both urgent and important? So you always start with urgent and important. Second level, important but not urgent. Thirdly, not urgent and not important. And it's important to deal with that. So to me, that's one of the things that has helped me. So I always want to look at things in perspective. How do they fit in the long-term view of the things? You know, if you stand here, not anymore, but earlier, from here you could see Mount Kenya. But these days it's so misty, you don't see Mount Kenya very much. But from here, you could have seen, when Nairobi, when you used to be Nairobi, you would see Mount Kenya. But if there is a tree nearby, you will not be able to see Mount Kenya because the tree is bigger, isn't it? Is that true? No. It's only because the tree is nearer, it's looking bigger than Mount Kenya. And that's how your issues are. Because the issue is so near, you start thinking it's big. But the another issue looking small, but it's actually bigger. So remember to look at things from perspective. When you place things in perspective, they stop having a big problem. Your wife gave you food with the left hand, and your grandmother told you that's an insult. And you are just about to cause a whole day problem because you are given food with the left hand. I agree that's an issue. But see it in terms of what will happen for the rest of the day when you quarrel. Is the food more important than the left hand delivery? Why don't you eat the food? And next time you are just talking and the installation asks, why did you give me food with the left? Because that matter is not urgent and it's not important either. Are we together? So it's important to, if you want to have a life of contentment, you must see things in perspective and avoid the dictatorship of the urgent. That will help you to really live a contented life. Number two, you have to make a choice to live in a disciplined way. What I'm calling disciplined living. The idea of living things anyhow, you do whatever comes, whatever happens. You don't have an ordered life. MacDonald wrote a book, if you ever see it, please buy it. It's called Ordering Your Private World. And the reason he wrote it, because he was the head of the Focus of America. And yet one day, he had trouble with one of the girls. And it really ruined his testimony. So after that, he wrote a book, Order Your Private World. Because one of the problems of not ordering your private world is to be so busy, so busy, that you do not have the ability to make judgments. When you're not disciplined, you allow yourself to work right into the night. And even I'm proud about it. Yesterday I slept 3 hours. You are making people know you are busy, isn't it? When you wake up after 3 hours of sleep, according to people who have studied, your judgment has a problem. Sleep is a determinant to your ability to make good judgment. When you have not slept properly, you see another car there, and although you can see you hate it, given you are driving faster, it takes too long to decide you hate it, so you end up hating it. But you'd hate it earlier, but it took too long to decide. That's why they tell you, if you did not sleep 6 hours last night, ask somebody else to drive. Because that's what you're talking about, lack of discipline. Where you cannot force yourself to go to sleep because you are being dictated by the exercise you are carrying today. You even forget that in economics they say you can reach the point E of diminishing returns, where normally for every extra hour you put, your productivity increases until you reach point E, and for every extra hour after that, your productivity goes down until you read the whole chapter. If you're a student, you read the whole chapter. After every chapter, what did I read? The best time is go and sleep. Now that's what you're talking about. Disciplined living means that discipline is not a word my children used to call it, Papa's D word. Now, because I kept emphasizing discipline when they used to be at home. Discipline means doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like doing it. That's what is called discipline. When you do something you enjoy, that's not discipline. It is doing what must be done even when you don't feel like doing it. Because you are doing it because it needs to be done, not because you feel like doing it. And disciplined people are able to live a contented life because they made clear what needed to be done, but in a disciplined way, there are things you decide not to do. So when you don't do them, you don't feel frustrated because you made a deliberate decision not to do them, because you could not do both. And you gave a reasoning as to why I picked this rather than this. But if you're trying to do everything, at the end of the day you have not done it, you live a frustrated life because you never achieve everything, but you have no priority on what to achieve. So you have no contentment when you don't live a disciplined life. Maybe you want to see your parents once a month, but without discipline, you cannot see them. Why? Now, fortunately, now these days, the people to be seen as me who is visited by my grandchildren. So it's a good idea if my children could actually make that kind of a discipline to when they can visit me and come with the grandchildren. But I'm talking about you. You have decided it's a good idea to visit your parents once every 2 months. But someone now, for a year, you have not yet gone. Why? Because that's a sign you are not. It's not lack of time. Because the moment you say you are going, something else must be cancelled. Nothing ever happens. When you hear somebody, Brother Langa, I'm sorry I have not come to see you for a year. The truth is, in that year you are doing other things that are more important than visiting Nana. I get a message. Nana, you are not as important as the things that are on my plate. So if really everything your parents are important, there will be something else not as important which you will cancel. Are you getting the point? Because you see, as long as there is a desire to visit your parents, you always feel disturbed that you are not visited them. But discipline allows you to decide, it's good to do this, but not as good as this. And it gives you a lot of joy whenever you finally have visited your parents. Am I right? Yes. The same thing with your money. Number 3, decision made on how well the item supports fulfillment of your call. In other words, you live a life of fulfillment if that bullet is well loaded. If you have a clarity on your purpose for living, do you have a personal vision and mission? Why were you born? Why were you born again? I've actually written a book on it. It's called Discovering Your Life's Purpose. Next time you're going to skip your bookshop, just pick. It's a small book. I wrote it for my mentees. Because that's one of the most important things. If you want to live a contented life, you must be clear. What is God's purpose for your life? Because when you live according to that purpose, my friend, you live a happy life. Contented life. In other words, you'll be there and you are not as rich as so and so. But if riches were not what you felt God has called you for, you say, thank God for them. That's not what God has called me to. Are you together? When you are clear on what the calling is, there is a sense of satisfaction that you are living according to that purpose. When you are not clear on your calling, you will be trying this and that, and you are not achieving them, you live a discontented life. That's why I retired from Shell and I was in top management of a multinational company. At that time, everybody is trying to invest and do all kinds of things. But at that time, I'm busy myself running from university to university. Surely, when later in retirement I discover my workmate owns the world and I don't feel dissatisfied. It will be wrong for God to get blessed with the money when I didn't even invest in it. It will be unfair to God. So the fact that he owns more does not make me dissatisfied, because I deliberately did not go that route. So why am I going to be dissatisfied? So are you understanding? When I made clarity as to God's calling in my life, way back in my younger days, it clarified who I was. It clarified my decisions. For example, when I left the university 45 years ago, I still remember wanting to join my church, and I tried to join the church of my own church. And I went there. Within no time, they made me an elder. But then it was a small church, and yet I'm receiving invitations from various universities. And yet the day I'm supposed to maybe the elder in charge of counting offerings is the day Kenyatta University College, then it was a college, not a university, has invited me. I can still remember that one. And I have to decide, do I count the offerings or go to Kenyatta College? If I don't count the offerings, that will be confusion. Counting offerings, you'll be told by every pastor here, is a very important exercise. So I'm not saying it is bad. It's important. But then, how many people will Kenyatta University College invite? I thought, God must be telling me something. That he has an opening for me to speak in campus. And a lot of the other elders don't have that calling. So why don't I allow them to do the job? And I do my job. After 2 years, in the next elections, I quickly told the pastor, with Mzungu, I told him, sorry, I'm not available. That's how I stopped being in the leadership of the church. Because I had clarity that God had given me a special calling to student ministry. And that God wanted to achieve something through my life among the students. And many of you, I met you in your student days, isn't it? Yeah. Because that's what I've been doing. But I said that in the 1970s. The first time I was invited to speak in a campus was September 77, which is what I'm calling 45 years ago. And I'm still speaking campus this afternoon. The other day I was Egerton Town campus, then I was in Jomo Kenyatta Town. Now, you need to understand, when you get clarity on your calling, you will live a contented life. Because there will be many things you are not doing, others are doing, but you will not feel jealous, you will not feel discontented, because you are doing what God has called you to do. And I think that's a very, very important thing for you to tell yourself. Because many people, when you are trying to be everything, you always be comparing yourself with others. And like I said in the introduction, and in the process, you are going to end up frustrated that you are not able to be like them. The other item is ability to say no and yes gracefully. You want to live a contented life? Learn to say no and yes. There is such a desire to please people. The Bible calls it, don't be men pleasers. And it can be such that you are trying to please everyone. In the name of trying to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one. And when again, since you are such in your heart, the way you are made, you like pleasing people. By not pleasing them, you can't sleep at night. Can you see the vicious circle? You want to please everyone, so you promise everyone. You can't please, you end up not pleasing anybody, again you can't sleep at night. So you can see clearly, you must learn how to say no. Once you know what your calling is, and it is very clear, then you'll be able to stand your ground. I still remember, after I had to move from a small church to a large church, that's how I joined CITAM. We wanted to be in a church where, even if I go there to be fed, so I can go to feed the students. So I don't go to take any responsibility. So I was in CITAM, and not involved in anything, because I'm there to listen to Pastor White. One day I just got a call from him and he said, John, we'd like you to join the deacon board. I said, Pastor, are you not aware I'm not a regular church attender? He said, yeah, but that doesn't bother me. Our board meetings are not here on Sundays. Continue preaching. Now that changed everything, because if he tells me I can come to a board meeting and still go to preach, he said, okay, now you can give my name for, because all you wanted is whether he can give my name for the voting. Obviously, not being in church very often, I was not voted, because they don't even know me. The following year, he again said, I'm still going to give the name. I said, Pastor, go ahead. And again, I was not voted. But he was serious about it. I think that time is when I finally got voted. But it did not, because I was clear that we had agreed with the pastor, I joined the deacon board, but did not stop my calling. I'm not communicating. So it's important to have clarity on your calling, so that you are able to say no with a lot of respect, because you are supposed to respect pastors, isn't it? But the answer still remains no. And when it's a yes, it's a yes, irrespective of whether you are getting something innate or not. I want us to go in groups of 3. 3 is easy to make 3 because you just, the middle one just remove the chair a little so the other 2 can see each other. 3 people. And I want you to discuss okay, groups of 3. I said 3 because it's easier. You just pull the chair, the middle one. Once you are ready, I will give you the questions. The first question is, give an example of something that has caused you a lot of discontentment. If it is too confidential, you can amend it, you know. You can amend it. Don't tell us details that you feel uncomfortable telling us. Amend it. Instead, change it to say, I know a person. Anyway, so you are giving an example of something that caused you or that other person a lot of discontentment. Question number 2. Give an example of something that gave you a lot of contentment or gave that other person a lot of contentment. Question number 3. What was the basis for that lack of contentment or for lack of that contentment? Can you go now behind to analyze? Why were you so contented? Why were you so discontented? What was the background? What are the issues? What are the principles that caused that? And you have only 10 minutes to finish. So you don't have a lot of time. But it is enough time because you are not debating it. It's a story. So one said 1 minute, you have shared. Then you can ask each other questions to get the principles. 5, 10 minutes, 2 minutes, 7 minutes. So 9:30 is when you are finishing. 9:30.